Great. Rob, thank you so much for joining us at Dark Mode. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
There's already been a lot of high energy conversation prior to hitting that record button. So
I know we had to sober face real quick on everybody.
Yeah.
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 Looking forward to this podcast. Yeah.
I love it. Would you like to actually open up with a bit of background on yourself, Rob?
Sure. Rob Lee, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dragos. We're an industrial cybersecurity tech firm. And my background's pretty straightforward. So I started in the U.S. Airforce, was the weird title of cyber warfare operations officer, which basically just meant you're the cyber guy, and got tasked over to the National Security Agency pretty early, built out the U.S. government's mission, looking at state actors breaking into industrial systems like power, water, rail, data centers, et cetera. And did that for years, loved it, enjoyed it. And when I got out, first cyber attack happened against power systems, which was in Ukraine, 2015, took down the power systems there. I got called up to kind of lead the response. And when I got back and briefed in the White House and all these state leaders around the world, it was very clear to me that they were largely disconnected from the reality of their infrastructure. And a lot of the chief information security officers and others around them, while there's many wonderful people out there, were advising them that it was about legacy systems and patching and all this other stuff. I was like, dude, that's IT stuff. What are you talking about? Like, the attack had nothing to do with that. So out of a very selfish desire to have lights and water for my kids, I started Dragos. And I also teach over the SANS Institute. And I'll be down in Canberra later this year teaching some classes as well. Always like to pop in and see the folks. So that's me.
Amazing. What a background. And excited to see you, Rob, when you are in Australia. So
yeah, please.
Yeah.
I'm not popping down to Sydney or Melbourne where our office is. It'll be Canberra for 2 weeks. And then we'll have a little mini ICS conference that we'll just host in Brislandia, Portlandia, Portland, Brisbane. It's the same place. I'm convinced it's the same place. If you go to Portland, you'll find people on unicycles drinking beer with long beards, and I'm like, that's Brisbane. It's the same thing. Yeah, keep it weird. Anyway, so yeah, I'll be there if you're up in Brisbane or in Canberra, or anybody listening is. I'm always down for a Four Pillars gin, or whatever shitty beer that you claim is decent.
That was a throwdown. That was a challenge. I appreciate your love of gin too, and I will definitely be there, and you and I will share a couple of gins. Four Pillars, it's an all right gin. There's plenty more craft ones that we can try over time. So.
Oh yeah, no, the gin culture in Australia is impressive. I'm a big fan. The beer, you've got to search a little harder, but that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, the beer's gone more fruity than it has.
I'm not the biggest IPA fan. I mean, like, I'll drink it, don't get me wrong, but it's really fruity IPA culture that's formed for sure. Again, it's okay. My Australian team swore up and down that they could outdrink me, though. Not trying to be an alcoholic right on the podcast out to a bunch of people that I don't know. But they're like, "Oh, you're from the U.S." I'm like, "I'm from Alabama." This is basically the outback of the U.S. Like, I could slap the bag, we could have some fun. Let's, okay. And at the end of the night, they all conceded that it was fine, and we only put 2 people in the hospital, so that was okay.
Well, your Australian team just grew by an addition of 1 by the time this podcast was released, Rob. So.
Oh, it will be public by then?
Oh, yeah, it will be public by then.
I think that's like the coolest thing for the record. I'm so sorry, Gabe, that I don't have like an immediate connection with but for all the other listeners, Ben's joining Dragos, and I didn't even know. Like I agree to this podcast because Gabe's awesome and posts real cool content. Ben shows up. Ben, I assume you're awesome too. But there's how you do stuff. That's great. Such a small world. What a fun podcast already. We haven't even talked about anything yet. We might talk about some things. Gabe's like, if you shut up for 3 seconds, I'd get something in. But I'm just stoked to meet you, Ben, before you're even on the team. That's so nice.
Likewise, it's exciting time. So that will be my new day job, which is exciting, and I'm excited to hopefully have you back on the podcast more often.
Anytime.
But Rob, I want to take you back. I'm just going to put my sober face back on. I want to take you back to your cyber warfare officer days in the Air Force. Gabe and I were both ex-Army for a long time, so we've got that in common as well. But from a cyber warfare officer perspective, and we're both very appreciative and understand there are limitations to what you can talk about versus what you can't talk about, and we're all friends in war here. So
hey, it's classified, I can't talk about it, is the immediate warning sign of they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. So talk me through what that entailed as a cyber warfare officer, mainly because a lot of our listeners are ex-military or still current serving. So it's very new for our military here down under. The cyber capability has only reached its head in the last 2 years. I spent a bit of time assisting in the growth of that through my education at SANS, actually, before I left. So what did that look like as a cyber warfare officer in the Air Force in the US?
Yeah. So candidly and respectfully, I would say most governments have no idea what they want out of cyber. They just know how to say cyber and they're like, fuck, we should be doing cyber. And the Air Force was no stranger to that. And so when I started, it was communications. And then on my road, like I joined the military, right? Went to the Air Force Academy, became an officer. I'm an African studies major by background. Like I think I've done decently well in ICS security and being good in technical, but started out in African studies. And that's where I got my start in control systems, was in Cameroon, building water filtration units and wind turbines and things like that. It was just good humanitarian work. And so I wanted to get back to that. And they were like, you can go be a pilot or you do comms. Like, hell, my parents are enlisted. I don't want to be a pilot. I remember meeting a couple of you. No thanks. And like the nice people too. Don't get me wrong. Anyways, but I was like, hey, I'll do comm if it can get me back to Africa. And they're like, sure. And en route, they changed it to, well, now it's cyber. I'm like, well, what's cyber? And they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, okay. And so it was a 6-month schoolhouse of cyber. They put me through from everything from programming Cisco switches to developing Metasploit modules, just random crap. And it was the NSA that allowed me to actually go focus on something and do stuff. But for years, I watched a lot of my Air Force peers. And if you landed in the right place, you could have done amazing work. And I think this is true of any place. So I think this is true in the Australian military, ASD, ACSC, whatever else. If you land in the right place with the right boss, God, you're going to do wonderful, amazing, exciting things. And also never listen to the jackass in the podcast telling you how to live your life. Like, this is just, my 2 cents. It's all good. But my 2 cents are this. The militaries are good at war fighting. They're great at it. Outside of that, it's not their job. It's not what they invest in. You can go to every company and go, do you want to build a world-class OT security program? To like pharmaceutical companies and stuff. No, they really don't. They want to build the bare minimum of what they're allowed to do because their core business is something else. And that's okay. And that shouldn't be vilified. And so cyber, as it supports the warfighter in the military, you're going to get top tier approach. You're going to get the resources you need. It's going to be a very clear return on investment. You're going to be okay. Anything beyond that, it becomes this nebulous of cyber. And so what I watch, and I wrote an article years ago called The Failing of Air Force Cyber publicly, which is, I think in hindsight, a bold move as your commissioned officer telling the public, including the 4-star in charge, that they're bad at the job. But it was one of the big problems we had was we treated as cyber officers. Well, what does that mean? Am I doing defense, offense, or intel to start with, and or development? Underneath that, is it like patching servers? Is it networking? Is it EDR and host-based analysis? Is it forensics? Is it exploit development? Whatever. And so I had troops that worked for me that were top-tier exploit developers that, because they were cyber, got sent over to patch servers at the IT center. And we lost everybody. And everyone around the world was like, or everyone in the military leadership and Congress and everyone else was, it's because of pay. Pay is much better than private sector. Like, screw your pay. Like, you have 3 opportunities. Give me progression, give me mission, give me pay. You got to give me 2 of those things. I'll sacrifice a third. You got to give me 2. But if you don't give me mission or progression, then I'm at least going to go get paid for it in the private sector. And so I would say for the Australian military, pick a focus. What do you need to do? Don't peanut butter spread it and try to do everything. We're going to build critical infrastructure teams to go respond to attacks on power systems. What? Like, why don't you take care of your own systems first? Right? Like, focus there, start there. Private sector already has instant response teams and all this stuff. Call Dragos, call Mandiant, call whoever. It's covered. We don't need you to spend taxpayer money on that. But are you building a, submarine program and you're kind of pissing off some neighbors and like some things are going weird in that way? Like, I don't know, start there. Like, that's going to be a big focus, and see where the cyber piece of it supports that mission set. If you do that, you'll do an extremely good job. Otherwise, you better have a defined program because you'll lose people faster than you can train them.
Rob, tell us about the link to Malcolm Turnbull. He's an investor in Dragos. How did this come about?
Yeah, super random. So I don't care about politics one or the other. I'm not Republican or Democrat in the U.S. I don't even begin to understand your political system. My Australian employees all the time, we got drunk one time and they try to explain it by using like, how you're conservatives and you have Democrats? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, imagine if you just had different Democrats. I was like, all right, whatever. And it did not help. So look, I don't know. What I know is when I got to meet Malcolm, and it was an introduction through Dmitry Alperovich, who's a board member and a friend who was co-founder over at CrowdStrike, and he said, hey, you got to know this guy. This Malcolm guy is talking about energy transition and this green energy stuff. And like, that's your thing, isn't it, Rob? Like, you guys should just know each other. And so I'm thinking, I went in biased, which is unfair, but I went in biased. Here's a prime minister of Australia, and he wants to talk about energy. Cool. All right. Malcolm, is it Honorable Turnbull? Is it Malcolm? What is this? I was like, Malcolm. He's like, it's Malcolm. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. Malcolm, what do you want about electric? Well, the United States and some parts of the world, you have a 55 hertz system or a 50 hertz system, and sometimes a 60 hertz system. But on our system, it's this way. And also the way that inertia works. And I'm like, well, hold on. Let me recenter, Malcolm. Calm down. And I had to like put the tech hat back on, immediately with Malcolm. And again, I don't care his politics. The guy knew what he was talking about. He had an opinion on it. I don't care if it's right, wrong, or different. It's opinion on it, but it was based in expertise. And he genuinely believed in the kind of mission that I believe in on, I want my kid to grow up with lights and water, And so building a company, being successful, that's nice, but that's a byproduct on, are you doing something added benefit to society? And his whole focus was, there's a mission and there's change a coming. And here's what I know about both. What do you think? And it was one of the most dynamic, interesting conversations I've had in a long time, let alone with a head of state. I've briefed presidents before. I've met prime ministers before, all that kind of fun stuff that a kid from Alabama shouldn't do. And Malcolm was the most interesting one of all of them. So eventually when Malcolm's like finance people are like, he has a home office. Like, is it okay if we look at investing? We were oversubscribed. I was like, yes, absolutely. And we found a way just to slip Malcolm in because it was so cool of like this guy that actually gets it and believes in the mission. Of course, I want you on board. We had no plan whatsoever. The first time I got to meet Malcolm was actually like in person, was post-pandemic. I went to his house, and then I got to meet his wife, Lucy. And Lucy's also like the most nice, wonderful person. And I made an absolute bogan of myself in front of all these Australian people when they were like, and this person, right? I'm like, no. Well, okay, well, what about this person? Like some person came out to be like, I'm so-and-so. And I'm like, cool. They're like, you're not, no. I'm like, I have no idea who any of you are. And they're like, oh, okay. And Malcolm's like, no, he's with me. And I'm like, all right, thanks, Malcolm. And it was like one of them was like the person that stood up and briefs you on COVID every day, one of the premiers or something. And she was nice, but she was like, you know who I am, right? I'm like, no fucking clue. And, one of them was like this barrister, which was a new word for me, that was like defending or prosecuting some like war criminal or some guy. Like basically there's just immensely wonderful, interesting people. And I had no idea who any of them were. So, yeah, while I sing high praises of Malcolm, I think Malcolm's conversations are like, here's this redneck from Alabama I brought into my party that didn't know anybody.
He thought the barrister was a coffee maker or barista.
Oh, yeah, whatever. I don't even know. Yeah. But they were brilliant people. And it was fun. But yeah, no, my interest in Malcolm is explicitly in the fact that he understands how inertia works. And as we talk about future leaning topics, I think green energy and climate change, discussions are very important. And you can't deny it. And I am not trying to I don't know how it's political, but you can't deny physics. Okay, let's stop denying physics. But you also can't deny physics on how you fix it. And if you want to go to solar and wind and don't have anything that spins, then you no longer have inertia on the electric system. And now when something changes, whether it's a frequency, load, cyber attack, whatever, you have no time to respond anymore. And so when you look at like Queensland as an example, wonderful power companies, wonderful people, no idea how they're managing that system. And that's not an incompetence thing. They're actually like, I hate when people throw out the word hero status on things, but like hero status level expertise to manage that system in its current state. You cannot run an electric system on one or two fuel types. You want it like an investment portfolio. You want diversified across everything. And sure, we don't want a bunch of coal, but you want some spinning reserves in case you need a black start in an electric system, bring it up after it's down. Snowy hydro was one of the smartest things you could have done to be able to add back in renewable but spinning. And you better be investing in nuclear technologies. Like you can't have a green energy transition and deny the place of nuclear power in that discussion. But anyways, Malcolm gets all that. And when I look at it from a cybersecurity angle, it's cybersecurity 15 years ago on an electric power system probably was kind of irrelevant. Now with all the changes happening, we operate at a knife's edge anyways. You better do the cybersecurity of it too.
Yeah, so interesting. What's the current state of the energy system in general? You sort of were alluding to it there, Rob, and perhaps we take the futuristic lens and take a look at what's occurring, what's happening, climate change and all the rest. And then if you've got any opinions, which I'm sure you do, around securing those environments, I would love to hear them from your view.
Yeah, don't worry. No one has ever had to wonder my opinion. As it relates to the energy system, and I'll use that broadly: electric, oil and gas, the various types of energy that we have. These are just wonderful, uh, wonderful professionals, and I do not think they get enough credit. Everyone always walks in, oh, it's insecure, whatever. Like, that plant's been running for 30 years and it's been running just fine. Okay. Yes, we want to understand that we're changing. Digital transformation, Industry 4.0, whatever big four consultant you talk to, I don't care. We're changing. That is driving the necessity here, but let's not abdicate the fact or ignore the fact that we have really safe and resilient infrastructure because of the work that our operations and engineering people have done. And that's amazing. But we're asking them to change quickly. And we're asking them to change at a rate that may be impossible, or let's reach for the stars. I have no problem with that. But we're also not funding them to do it. And then we're complaining about it on the back end. And again, pick two kind of discussion here. And if you look at like the water system in the United States, as an example, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, is the sector-specific agency in charge of the water regulations. There are no water regulations today. They're talking about rolling them out. I came out publicly saying, hey, I don't think that's going to work. And people are like, oh, you don't think the EPA could do this or whatever? And I'm like, I'm not even getting to that level yet. I'm getting the fact that in Flint, Michigan, there's lead in the pipes and people dying, and you can't even replace that because Americans don't pay the full cost of their water bill today. A lot of it's subsidized or operating at a loss. And you're going to go tell me that you're going to do more things. I don't even care what the more is in that bucket. It's an economic issue. It's not a policy, regulatory, tech, people, process, whatever issue. And I looked to a little bit of that in Australia. Now, it's not identical. You don't have the same setup of public utilities commissions, but you have similar. If a power company wants to invest in security, they're still going to their regulator to make the case to do that. And what is happening right now in Australia, as far as I can tell, I'm not trying to be the asshole outside your country telling you how to run your country, but as far as I can tell, the mandate on cybersecurity is there. The executive level leadership buy-in from prime ministers and premiers to board members to execs down is there. But there's a different conversation happening in the power company, the regulator, and the government. And the government's view is you need to go get to this new level. Look at the SACI regulations. Like, let's get to this new level of critical infrastructure protection. And the power company's going, yeah, we want to do that, but here's how, right? Government should dictate why and what, but they should leave the how to the asset owners and operators because they have the expertise. So the power company's going, well, hold on. We want to do all that you want in the outcome, but patch in 30 days or report incidents in this way. Like, you're getting into the specifics. Stop. If this is the outcome you want, we want that one too. Here's how we want to do that. So they're spinning the story a little bit in an appropriate way, in my opinion. And the regulator, as far as I can tell, hasn't really been talked to. And so they're sitting on the sideline going, hey guys, we're kind of in this conversation. And so you've got, I last trip I was in Australia a couple months ago, I was talking to CEOs of power companies, especially mining and manufacturing too, but power, it was really coming forefront. And their conversation was, government's asked me to do something. I want to do it. We have our plans. And when I take the plans to the regulator, they get denied. So I'm getting told publicly by the government to do X, and I'm telling another part of the government that to get to X, I need Y, and they're saying too bad. That is not a problem for security people. That is a policy discussion that must be ironed out if you want to actually get to where you want to go. Add in the complexities of an energy transition, add in the complexities of changing infrastructure, add in the complexities of geopolitical peers that have problems with what you want to do with your own country. You start getting into a place where it gets a little dicey. And I'm not the fear and gloom and whatever person, but time is running out. In 2018, I testified in front of the US Senate and said, based on what I'm seeing, I think we have 4 to 5 years before we start seeing industry scalable malware and capabilities for industrial. When I started out in the agency, I spent time on the offense as well when I was in the military. To go after one refinery versus another refinery in the same country is difficult. It's a heterogeneous environment. Different systems, different integration, different physics. It's just different. I can't really scale an attack. We started to get into the era of, in that same industry, you could scale because it started to become a little bit more homogenous. But now we have common operating systems, common platforms, common vendors, cookie cutter states in terms of like new manufacturing facilities, et cetera. And in January 2022, Pipe Dream came out. And it was 4 years to the date of my testimony. And it was exactly what I was concerned would eventually happen. where we now have a capability that is depending on those commonalities, that it can be disruptive across industries. And the speed to which you need to be able to respond to that is much different than heterogeneous singular attacks. So anyways, you add all those things together and throw in some climate change, and now it's like, hey, energy providers, deal with it. That's the problem.
What a complex operating environment that's just like in a rapid state of flux as well. Just like big macro forces disrupting even just the thinking of the leadership in an secure environment. It's like, gosh, that must be tough for the practitioners and the leaders on the ground.
It is, but we've never had it better in terms of the attention. I mean, I got invited to speak at Davos this year. I have no business being at Davos, let alone speaking at it. Forget the Rob Lee factor of that. Ignore me for a second. Davos wanted OT security on the agenda at the World Economic Forum in front of the heads of state and everything. I like went to get coffee and bumped into Bill Gates. I mean, like, it was a weird place. Okay. It was another time I went and got a little salmon sandwich, and the Israeli prime minister was like, "What's up, man?" I'm like, what the fuck is this place? Like, it was weird. But to have OT security be so important that they put it on the agenda, forget the asshole that went to speak about it. Wow. What an opportunity we have. What an amazing time to be in this. And if we don't get it right, it's now on us.
Massive. Did you say anything to Bill Gates, just out of curiosity?
Oh, fuck.
What sort of coffee did you get?
Frozen.
Yeah, man, I like, not a chance. Yeah, like, I was like, what's up? Like, I felt so much better when like a lot of people in the industry, I'm massively introvert. I think I play well on stage, but when I'm at home with my wife and kid or whatever, we are not talking. It's jammies and tea and just hanging out, right? I love not talking to people. And I had basically a panic attack going to the World Economic Forum because like I didn't know what to expect. And like the day I arrived to get my badge, I'm like, "What's up, people?" And they're like, "Cool, where's your handler?" And I'm like, "What handler?" They're like, "Well, you have a white badge." And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of colonialist." But anyways, I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "The white badge is in the inner circle, and you're also a speaker." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "So where's your handler?" Like, I really don't, and this is not a Swiss French thing. I don't know what you're saying. Like, what are you trying to articulate? Like, do you not have somebody that like prepared for months with you about what meetings to go to and where to be at and who to talk to and everything else? I'm like, no, I just showed up. And they're like, "Oh, well, good luck." And I was like, "What the hell?" And like literally had like a breathe in a paper bag, like panic attack after like I'm supposed to be representing the OT security community. I didn't even know what I was supposed to do here. You know, I was like, and I don't even have a handler. And then it just magically turned out well, because after I spoke and everyone was like, "Oh no, we're focused on the our company," and everything from there went fine. But I already felt so weird about everything that the last thing I was doing was introduce myself to people. But where I was going with that diatribe, and Gabe was like, "Do you think we'll use the 90 minutes?" "Yeah, I think we're gonna use the 90 minutes of the podcast." Anyway, and where I was going with that is, as I would go out, I'd hang out with the staff. So if anybody ever goes to Davos, hang out with the staff. And so I got to know all the staff because I thought they were getting kind of mistreated, honestly, by some of these fancy people. That's fine. A lot of them were actually genuinely nice. I saw one of the richest men in the world, doesn't matter who it is, like bent over backwards to try to help a lady in the bathroom, like clean up stuff, you know, and she was coming in. Like, they're not all jerks. But as I was hanging out with the staff, they started introducing me to people just that they were hanging out with. The next thing I know, it was like, won't name names, certain like EU leadership you've seen on TV and like other people like that. And like, I was like, "I think I know you." And like, we're taking shots. They're like, "I'm so-and-so." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." So, it was some fun ones, but like, what a weird world. Yeah. It was weird. And like, I Googled a guy that I was sitting next to. I was like, "I've seen your face before," and I couldn't think of who it was, and like took a little picture and tried to do. He was only worth 40 billion. I was like, "Oh, okay. All right. This is a fun little environment."
There's a certain time when you use Google image search, and there's a certain time you don't. And if you're in caliber of those people, it's probably the time I wouldn't, just so that I didn't have that thing in my head.
I'm okay. I mean, like, I'm okay embarrassing everybody. Like, I don't wear suits. I don't shave. I'm you know, it's like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen?
Great segue. Great segue into the beard, Rob. How long have you been growing it for? Big fan.
Oh yeah. I only shaved it for my wedding. So when I was in the military, you wear, as you all know, you wear a uniform every day, you're clean shaven, and you run and you're fit. And so when I got out of the military, I just wanted to be different. Like everybody does. My little protest, right? So I stopped shaving in 2015 and I stopped wearing suits. I bought a blazer jacket for Davos because my EA was going to murder me if I didn't. And I wore a blazer jacket, but it was not a suit. And I and I got fat, and I got fat on purpose, and I blew up, and I enjoyed it. And then the pandemic started, and I was like chasing around my son around the yard, lost the breath, and I was like, my protest vote can't strip my kid of his childhood. So I've dropped 149 pounds, and I shaved only for the wedding in 2015, and put on a suit for the wedding. So suit for the wedding, suit for senators in a testimony, never shave again, and finally got my shit together on the weight. So yeah, 2016 or so. I trim it though. It gets down to like, I mean, it gets a little ridiculous, and so I'll trim it. But there's no oil or anything else. It's just all natural of a hot mess.
So good.
Does it get to ZZ top length? Are we talking?
Yeah, no, yeah. And also people think that I like am creative and like trim, but I'm not a style person. This is just how it grows. I'm like a dirty leprechaun. You know, it's just like this. There's not a thing in between here.
It's iconic.
Yeah,
It's gonna be really good. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna shave one time. I just got tired of it. I was like, I'll shave. My chief marketing officer was like, no,
Branding, stop.
out of the branding. Then I hated it for like 2 months, but then I was cool with it. You like sleep at night, you know.
Ben, can you draw yours to that length?
I'll try. I will try.
Yeah, there you
Mine
go.
gets really thick though, and it grows sort of length out here, and you might look like I'll be the opposite, Rob. Mine
No, that'd be
look
good.
like the guy from Street Fighter.
No, that'd be good. We can like together, our beards combined. You know, are you coming to? I'm sorry, Gabe. You wanted to do a podcast and now
Go for it.
with a future employee, but like, Ben, are you coming to Disc November 5th then in Maryland?
I haven't got that far yet. Contract was only signed.
So
yeah.
It's not required, but it is so much fun. Our annual on-site November 5th every year. Easy to remember. Add a day or two on each side anyways to hang out and have fun. But it's a little industrial security conference, and we open it up for free to industrial security community members to come. But the real thing is like all 500 something of us get together and have fun. And I don't know, it's not really for any real purpose other than networking. We will do one in Brisbane a couple weeks later, so you can do both. But you should totally come to Disc. It's like Maryland blue crabs and beer and everything. It's good. It's a good time.
Speaking my language, I'll be there.
Awesome. Gabe, you're welcome too, by the way. Yeah.
I'm coming. I mean, I thought
We're now.
I thought it was a dream.
I mean, we're hiring Gabe. I don't know.
Gabe's actually my handler for the event. But
Yeah. I will be there, Rob. You just won't know it.
Yeah, it's absolutely. That'd be awesome. Yeah. Army sniper. No.
well, there you go. We could run another podcast from Disc. That's our excuse to get.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, big time. Love it.
Hey, Rob.
Your listeners at this point are like, I've learned nothing in this podcast. I'm sorry, Ben. What's up?
I'll
make my answers.
No, this is fun. Listen, actually, Rob.
This is what Patrick is not inviting me back to risky business. This is it right here.
It's amazing. I want to get back to the humanitarian side, Rob, because that's a huge part of Dragos. It's a huge part of you as a person. You mentioned that you did a lot of work in Cameroon with part of your African studies, and then for the humanitarian side. One thing I've learned really clearly in the process of coming on board, I just think that is the coolest mission statement. And
Thanks, Ben.
It rings true for the work you do publicly. Look at the Ukraine incidents, look at everything that's happened in that geopolitical space there. You've gone in and you've given the technology for free to those organizations to secure themselves in light of the Russian invasion. So talk me through the humanitarian side of Rob Lee and how important that is to you as a person, and then the company that you've grown as a result of.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely more credit to the team than me on all this. But I will say that it's not what people would have first maybe think. And it's like this deeply not capitalistic humanitarian approach, but like, I don't know what the right words are, but something along the lines. What I mean by that is I don't like charity. And I'm not saying all charities are bad, but like being in Cameroon, people would donate their shirts all the time, right? And so you'd see boats full of like post Super Bowl in the United States when the wrong team won or whatever, and all the t-shirts that they printed off anyways, they dropped them into places like Niger and Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon and things like that. Like, yay, we're donating. And it's like, great, you just like entirely destroyed the local economy with the tailor and other people trying to build their business. And so I never liked that. And so even the humanitarian work in Cameroon with control systems was around like, cool, we're going to build some wind turbines and you're going to charge car batteries. And as a result, you're going to be able to use car batteries for your lights and LEDs in the house and have extra hours in the day to learn and send your kids to school. But also you have excess energy that you can go sell to neighboring villages and everything else. Not, by the way, not all Cameroon is like villages and whatnot, but there are some parts like that. And will enable these little micro economies. I found that to be wonderful. And so when you know, Dragos could still fail, don't get me wrong, but we're decently large now in terms of a company. 500 something employees and whatnot, and security is relatively large. And it'd be very easy for us to screw up smaller economies by trying to do anything just nice. In other words, like if I went out over a certain level to companies that will do it for free with you anyways, forget the Dragos impacts. There's going to be some managed service provider or some small tech startup or somebody else that I just trampled in their yard on. So you got to balance that. You got to make sure that what you're doing is adding to the overall good and it's not just feeling good. And that's why I say it's not capitalist is the right word, but it's almost just like informed work on that. So on the free program we have, the community defense program, which what you're referring to, like in Ukraine, I'm sorry, all bets are off. We'll take care of everybody. I'm not really worried about your local MSSP right now. But in Australia, UK, the US, and the GCC, basically anywhere we have offices set up already to sustain it, if you're an electric, water, or gas utility under 100 million in revenue, our technology, our instant response service, our managed service, and our training, all free forever. Just go take it, go do better. Why them? So this goes to your question. I want to be careful here because I don't want people to think I'm more magnanimous or whatever the right word is than I am. I want to be, call me an asshole when I'm an asshole, but here's what we think is good. Why them is because your utilities are usually regulated or controlled on what they can charge. And so right now there's a lot of water, electric, and gas utilities out there that want to do security. They know what to do, but it's literally, they don't have the economic means and cannot get the economic means. And so for them, it's like, while you guys figure out your crap with policymakers, the citizens that depend on your services should not suffer. So, hey, let's go take care of it. Manufacturers. I love manufacturers, but what's the problem there? That's a pure economy. That's a pure like capitalist economy. There's no regulator on most of the manufacturers. So where your company executives have decided to get to market faster or to cut corners on security or whatever else, you're making that willful choice. That's not a regulator above you doing that. You are doing it based on a price per good sold. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not vilifying any of them. We have a lot of wonderful manufacturing customers, but you're not in the same position. And so, no, I'm not going to give you free stuff where your board is making an active decision to benefit the shareholders at the expense of the community. So if you're focused on the community and you have barriers to helping the community, we'll figure it out and we got your back. If you're not, that's fine. We are still a company and our technology is not cheap. We are not the cheapest on the market. Why? Because I don't treat our employees internationally different than our US employees. Everybody makes the same salary. I don't try to go to developing countries and skimp wages to pass it on to a discount to a giant energy or manufacturing company. No, I'm going to build a sustainable company. We're going to have secure development lifecycle and do all the things we always talk about. And I'm going to pass on the actual costs in the software. And then those that can't pay, we'll take care of them. And I think there's a certain thing about that in the industrial community. This couldn't work everywhere. But when I go talk to mining companies in Australia, and there's a very large mining company that is one of our customers, and I love them to death, and I wish I could promote them, but I don't have permission to, but they're just such a good group of people. And we had this discussion one time, and I was like, I'm not giving you any discounts. That's what we just said. We're good. Well, you could. I could. You can pay for it. They're like, what's the deal? And I was like, I'm charging you what I can on a fair value because there are others that can't, and I'm going to take care of them. And that was it. And they were like, oh yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Here you go. And that was it. And they were so invested on take care of the community. Don't worry about it. And I guess my point of that is in the industrial community, there's a culture of those that can will, but you also need to take care of those that can't. And I think that's a nice aspect. It's not humanitarian. It's not charity. It's we're going to build a system that can work inside this environment.
Blown away. Love it. It's great to hear that the ICS/OT industry is its own community. So often there are, especially in the wider cybersecurity and wider IT, it's fend for yourself in a certain aspect. But it's great to hear there's a community because it's such an underrepresented industry that it needs community to thrive.
It's amazing, and it's the greatest thing in the world anyways for us that live on social media and InfoSec communities and conferences or whatever, where I think I think it's not too braggadocious at this point to say I'm decently well known in InfoSec, and nobody's ever heard of me at the plant. You know what I mean? Like that's the greatest thing in the world is going out to just do work. And there's no like, I saw your tweet or whatever. It's just, hey, who are you? Well, I know some things about gas turbines. Let's talk. Oh, cool. All right, welcome to the party. It's just the OT, the industrial community writ large. Not only is it just a good community oriented group, but it's also kind of this protected island away from the last 25 years of InfoSec drama. And I'm not saying we don't have our own assholes, but it's a cool place to be.
What do you think the biggest like paradigm shift is required to like get a bit more maturity in the security journey for that community role?
Yeah, the one that's happening right now, there's probably two right now that's happening that are good, and I'll pontificate about a third in the future. But the first obvious one is ransomware, and tied closely to the pandemic with that same one focus. What I mean by that is a lot of executives and board members and executive cybersecurity leadership have been told for the longest time that their automation environments are air gapped or highly segmented or disconnected or whatever you want to call it. And we can laugh about that in the InfoSec community. Oh, that's been dead for like 10 years, right? And that's alive and real in a lot of the rest of the world. And a lot of CEOs at the start of the pandemic turned to their staff and was like, we have a lot of people remoting in from home now. And yeah, we can operate at the plant remotely. And that's cool. Look, I'm not that technical, but how do we have a completely disconnected plant and we're remoting in to operate it? Like those two things don't go together. And so that was the first like, maybe we don't have what we thought we had. And then massive amounts of human operator ransomware. Ransomware has been around forever, but human operator ransomware is really going after industrial for a while. And well, it still is, but really hit it a high gear. And there wasn't a board member that doesn't sit on 4 or 5 or more other boards. And they were all seeing what was happening to these companies outside of what was public. A lot of public, it hit our IT, it didn't hit our OT. Well, that was a very creative defining of OT and IT sometimes. And for them to realize, oh my gosh, we're connected. So that's the first holy crap moment. And you can kind of put that into like digital transformation, call it whatever you want, but hyper connectivity has come to those plants for 15 years now. And it's just catching up that people are realizing it. And then the second one that's happening right now is for a long time. Actually, since all of this really started, when executives, let me back up. There's not a board out there that doesn't think about cybersecurity every now and then. It hasn't since 1998 when Presidential Directive 63 first came out in the United States saying critical infrastructure is vulnerable to cyber attacks. Like everybody was talking about it. But the executives turned to their staff and said, reduce cyber risk, not IT, not OT, cyber risk. And there's a lot of focus on standards and frameworks and things because we didn't know where to go. We have a lot of threats now, and we can paint out scenarios and map things to standards instead of bingo card with standards. But anyways, and what's happened all those years is 95% plus of the security budgets at every one of these companies has gone to enterprise IT. And when they get presented the board metrics and all that stuff, they haven't stopped to say, is that the enterprise or enterprise IT? And so a lot of the board, I probably do 2 board meetings a month these days as a guest to different industrial companies. And that's one of the first questions I ask the CSO before we go in. And then I'll ask the board. And all of them are like, no, that's our company. And the CSO is like, what are you talking about? No, that's just IT. And they're like, hold on. You mean all the things that we've been doing and investing on the non-revenue generating side of the business, non-environmental impacting side of the business, non-safety impacting side of the business? Or am I getting this right? And as boards and executives are realizing the inherent bias that's gone in, and I love our IT security brothers and sisters and others, like, don't get me wrong, but we have a bias of coming up through help desk or whatever else. And so you focus on the IT security challenges. And I see a lot of stuff, so I'm going to focus there. You don't have a lot of automation professionals that are CSOs, so you didn't get a lot of focus on that. So we need a course correct fast. And it's not saying not both are important. They are. It's, everyone's beautiful and pretty and snowflakes and whatever. But if you don't protect the insulin manufacturing, but you protect your website, but people die, but you protected your website, like I don't think your parliamentary hearing is going to go very well. And I think your shareholders are going to sue you out of existence. So that's happening now. The third one that's kind of the what's on the horizon of all this And to me, it can go in different ways in different industries. Energy transition for the electric community, supply chain crisis the next like decade for the manufacturing community. I think that's all there, but I think it's going to come down, unfortunately, to be a little bit more nationalistic. And what I mean by that, and maybe it ties in the supply chain, is with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, with China and Taiwan, and quite frankly, Australia kind of in the hot seat, with these various things that are happening, there's going to be a big change on where companies do business, how they do business, where they source talent, et cetera. And that's going to change everything. And there's going to be security implications of that change as well. And that's going to have a lot of implications on operations. If we I'll shut up after this, but if in the Trump administration, and again, staying on the politics at all, but in the Trump administration, one of the things that he put out and his staff put out was an executive order on Chinese transmission equipment. And a lot of the security people looked at that and was like, aha, there's backdoors and Chinese transmission equipment. Like, what? No, I haven't found one. Maybe there is. I don't know. But we haven't found one. Stop. What it had to do with was nothing to do with security. It was like trying to tell people, like, the story is not about you. It was like post NSA, everyone would come up to me and be like, you're spying on me. I'm like, who are you? Like, like, I'm glad you're the hero of your own story, but I don't care about you. And it's not about security. What it was about was Chinese transmission equipment. And there's some shady stuff too, don't get me wrong. But the moral of the story was Chinese transmission equipment is built in China. And if we lose one of those transmission equipment, it's not like you keep a spare. Each one of them's custom. And it was a minimum of 6 months to replace it, but on average, 9 to 12 months. So it's a national security risk that a core component of your electric system is made by another country. And even if they're being friendly, it could be a year to replace it. That kind of thought process now added in with people may not be friendly, and there may be security implications of it. It's going to change. It's going to absolutely change the industrial world. I mean, your mining industry is facing that already in Australia.
You talk about the predicament before of enterprise IT focus for security, Rob, and for the CSOs and those future CSOs listening on to the show today. What advice would you give them to navigate that predicament without putting risk at their job or risk of backlash at board level?
I'll give you the what not to do, the what to do, and the flippant easy answer.
Yep.
The what not to do is to realize that your board and your executives are smart. And a lot of security people, oh, yeah, they don't get it. I got to dumb it down for them or whatever else. It's like, wow, what like privileged life you've had. What are you doing? GAAP revenue accounting is technical. Okay. Your little pivot table in Excel for the CTI indicators, not that technical. All right. Like, it's skills. I love it. I love Excel. Stop telling me your board and execs aren't technical. But the difference is your board and execs understand your business. So my do is, before you even think about muttering NIST cybersecurity framework, MITRE ATT&CK, Dragos, Mandiant, Palo Alto, whoever, stop. Go learn your business. I can tell you about security. I can tell you what's on the market. You can hire Gartner for all I care. But none of us can tell you about your business. And so the CSO's number one job is to learn why are they in business and what keeps them in business, and then tailor your security guidance to that mission. Not, well, NIST cybersecurity framework said, nobody cares. What are you in business for? And if you can learn that and understand that, you can then be the translation layer. And that is the most powerful position to be in at an executive layer. The flippant easy answer is go get a box of donuts and a case of beer, or I guess Tim Tams for y'all, and go out to the plant, find the oldest, crustiest engineer you can find and ask him or her or other, and like, hey man, how's this plant work? Or what would be a really bad day for you? Oh boy, that gas turbine over there, woo, man, if that spins up, you better run. Like, thanks, man. And the next assessment, guess what you're doing? And guess where you're focusing? Easy way to find crown jewels. So learn the business, get out to the field more often, get out of your cubicles, go learn your operations. And you'll find that if you're a halfway decent person talking to operations people in their language, or just show an interest, they're going to take you in and show you everything and anything. They'll take care of you. But if you come in and go, you got to do what you're doing. Okay, why? Because the standard said so. Get out of my plant. These folks, most of them have PhDs or masters of security or master in engineering or whatever else. Like, they're not idiots. On average, they're much more highly educated than security professionals. But you better learn your business.
Do you think that's the crux of like opening the kimono a bit, Rob? Because it seems like security practitioners, as a general statement, have done a very good job at, putting themselves on a pedestal and like making things very complicated and hard to understand. So
Definite messiah complex.
yeah. Do you think it just comes down to the human factor, right? Just like lean into the unknown unknowns and just be a good person about it and be curious and learn and get other people's perspectives.
I think that's the starting sort of stakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you've got to be an expert in what you do. There was a point in all of our careers early on where you could be a cybersecurity expert. You can't be today. There is no such thing as cybersecurity any day. We're talking application security, we're talking cloud security, on cloud security, we're talking rack space, we're talking EC2, we're talking the new things that they're doing in Azure. What are we talking about here? Are we talking Dockers? Are we talking, or are we talking memory forensics? What are we talking about? So there is no cybersecurity experts anymore. So be a good person, focus on the human factor, then find something and specialize it in. I get inbound all the time from students. I love it. And they're, oh, can you help me out? Great. What do you want to focus on? I don't know. I want to do cybersecurity. What can I do? Shit, I got nothing for you. Why don't you go figure out an area you want to focus in, anything. Come back to me and I can give you all the advice in the world on that thing, or point you to people that can. But I can't start from, I want to do cyber, because that's not a thing. So yeah, have a specialization and get good at it and be able to speak with authority on it. But the table stakes game, the place to ride the ride is being a good person. And I think that's getting shortchanged right now. I think there's 99% of the people in the community are awesome. That 1% can be pretty loud. But the reality is there is an environment of there's such a job shortage. 700,000 at any given time, or blah, blah, blah. And therefore it's, you need me. You're welcome to have me. That can form, and it can form in all of us. You got to be careful on it. You got to be introspective enough to say, hey, I'm just excited to be part of this mission. But it can form real quick on I don't need this, and I could go anywhere and I could do anything, and I should get paid with 2 extra zeros in the back end of it because I got this certification or some crap, whatever else. And that's never going to fly. It's not going to lead us anywhere. But some companies have trouble firing those people because they are in a bad space. But actually, in the skills job thing, I think that's mostly made up. Or a self-inflicted problem. We got job applications for an entry-level position that requires 5 years of experience in a 3-year-old technology, and then we count that as an unfilled job. It was an invalid job to start with. So if you remove all the invalid jobs, I'm sure we've got a job shortage, but it's not 700,000, at any given time. Most of my students that come through SANS or whatever else are always asking me, how do I get started? How do I get the entry level job? Until the community outside of InfoSec helps build a better onboarding experience into the community, it's not a training or skills issue.
Totally. A few systematic improvements that could be made.
Yeah. I mean, as we all talk about the diversity and equity inclusion discussion and belonging discussion, like tell me how many inner city schools in the United States get the opportunities to go do tech or STEM anything and then find a job. Yeah. Anyways, we don't have to get off on all these things, but it's not hard. Like, again, it may be difficult to do, but it's not hard to figure out. When I was on the offense for the government, not one time I was like, oh, you don't have that certification, or, oh, you don't have that degree, or, well, what background did you come from? And if you're on offense, it was, can you do it? Great. Welcome aboard. On defense, we put all these barriers in place. And I've just never understood it.
Yeah, very valid. Very valid.
There's a great thing I read a couple of weeks ago. It was the developer of a new programming language couldn't even apply and get accepted for a role, an entry-level role for the position that was created for his language, because the experience outdated that he created the programming language. Just wild. And you see it so often.
Wild.
It's wild.
That's wild. Yeah, that is wild. Rob, I've got to ask you, would you, as a guest in this Dark Mode episode, your thoughts on the Australian Critical Infrastructure Bill? I think you alluded to it slightly before, but switch or better that up. Yeah.
I'm optimistic, but it's to be seen, right? And so the real teeth of the regulation right now is primarily focused on having a risk mitigation plan at a board level signed off by the board. And I love that. And that's one of the smartest things they could do is, here's what we want you to accomplish. You accomplish however you want, but it's got to be board level. You're shareholders. You got to sign off on it. And I think allowing the companies to come up with their own plans is good. The problem is what every country is facing, which is no government or regulator wants to get out there and say, focus on A, not on B, and then B happens, and they're beholden to their public on, well, we didn't protect you against B. You can't protect against everything. And what governments, in my opinion, should do, and I'm not trying to be just the asshole here, like I've worked with a bunch of them on this topic, is if they really want to be outcome-based, which is, if you talk to any government, any regulator, they want to be outcome-based. That's the magic words, performance-based or outcome-based, same thing. They always make it prescriptive. Why? Because it's easier to audit. And so we build regulations focused on the auditors, not on what we're trying to actually protect against. And what needs to happen is a little extra leadership on the government side of the house to say, we're going to sign off a plan. We're going to work with the regulator for you so you don't have to go operate your business. We'll get you the resources you need. We're going to be intensive. We're going to have internal experts, and we're going to staff and resource them to be able to criticize your plans. Go, that one doesn't make sense. But what are we building the plans against? Got to start with the requirement. And right now, nobody's articulating requirements. They're articulating standards and frameworks, and those aren't requirements. Those are bingo cards. And if we get to a requirement, it would be very simple. I'm an electric power company in Australia. What are my requirements? You need to be able to deal with the Ukraine 2015 scenario, because that was when we actually saw electric power go out. You need to be able to deal with the Ukraine 2016 scenario, because it happened again. 2022 scenario is just the exact same one, so it's already covered. And you need to be able to deal with ransomware inside of operations. Those are your three scenarios to start with. If you can't deal with the two known times that cyber has actually taken down power systems, and you can't deal with the other one that happens all the time, which is ransomware, you're probably in a bad place. Stop talking about unknown unknowns, AI, blockchain, whatever crap. Get TeamViewer off the HMI, right? Let's start with the basics. But here is the requirements. These introduce community risk. That's another element of this that's important from governments. They introduce community risk, and this is the scenario. You tell us how you're going to deal across prevention, detection, and response and recovery with that scenario. And then they put a plan together against those requirements. Now it's not a religious or dogmatic debate about this security control is good or bad, because they're all good. And it's not a moral equivalency discussion. But now it's a, does this one actually impact that scenario? Yes or no? Well, now you've got requirements, and it can streamline the whole discussion. And until they can put those in on what are we actually trying to do, you're going to spend your cycles, and everyone's going to come up with their own answer, and eventually just get back to prescriptive so auditors can regulate it. But one quick thing, community risk. That I want to highlight that. That is the role of governments, and governments need to stop dictating business risk. And so I'm not anti-regulation. I actually think there should be more, but I'm more for smart regulation, and it's always a debatable term. As an example, should a chemical company be able to build a new chemical plant outside of Sydney and follow all their, follow the rules and regulations on it, build a chemical company right outside of Sydney, and be aware of the crisis scenario that happened in 2017 in Saudi Arabia, where an adversary tried to compromise a safety system to blow up the plant and kill people? If they're aware that that scenario exists, should the shareholders be able to accept that risk? The answer is no, because the impact is outside your fence line. At that facility, you accepting that risk and something to happen would lead to hundreds of thousands of lives lost. I'm sorry, that's not your choice as a shareholder. The government has a role and responsibility to its citizens to be able to manage community risk. But should the Australian government be able to tell them that they need to use multi-factor authentication on their enterprise environments to prevent intellectual property theft? No, that's a business risk. If the shareholders want to sign off on being completely exposed in all their internal intellectual property, that's their call. We can all sit outside the fence and argue about how stupid it is, but it's inside the fence impact only. Sorry, not your call. Right now, governments need to get much better about identifying community risk versus business risk, focusing on community risk and setting what those community risks are as requirements, not about controls, but as scenarios, so that companies actually know what to build against. I'm optimistic on the conversations that I have with ACSC and Home Affairs and everybody else. I'm worried that the auditing piece is going to get you right back to what everyone else has done. So we got to be careful there.
The auditing piece is about to exponentially grow. So for the folks listening, just to give a bit of timeline history, November 21 was the first CIB, Critical Infrastructure Bill. April this year was the second, and it passed. And then April, there was two obligations for grace periods, right? And the first grace period was the incident reporting being mandatory. That has just subsided. So that was in July, early July. The one that's about to come and really impact all of us is the register for that critical infrastructure of assets. and that grace period falls in October. I think it's the 8th of October this year. That's when we're really going to see the impact of what's to come. And for me, in line with your thoughts, that's where we're really going to see whether this is a true critical infrastructure bill or if it's just designed for business process.
Absolutely. And again, we have all the examples in the world, and I don't know why we don't learn from each other, but like TSA, the people that do the airport security are the people somehow in charge of pipeline security across the country in the United States, because it's interstate. Got it. Fine. There's so many good people at TSA, but that was such a large mission to put on a small staff. But anyways, the first requirements were things like you must patch all vulnerabilities within like 90 days. And it's like, why? What are you trying to accomplish? That doesn't make any sense. And it's really not possible. But the second iteration was more outcome based, which was you tell us how you're going to apply vulnerabilities and how your risk-based approach. I want to see it one step further outcome and tell me how you're going to mitigate the vulnerabilities, because patching is like one of 8 ways to do it. If they're using application whitelisting, or they've already got a really good perimeter and they've modified it with a firewall, mitigation or something, or we come up with some new technology we didn't know about. Why are we regulating complex passwords? Because multi-factor authentication now is better. So the regulations that you put in place need to be outcome based. They need to be based on requirements. They need to be something that companies can articulate the how when the governments own the why and the what, but they also kind of need to be future proof of you can innovate inside of this and not be concerned. And right now, one of the biggest concerns for innovation in cybersecurity is the regulatory regimes that are in place. Cool. We've covered gin, beer, beard, fiber. Like this is it's a good podcast. This, I mean, for me, the listeners, I've enjoyed it.
No, it's been great, Rob. I have so many more questions, but I know that we are actually tight on time now. So I'm sure we're going to have to get you on for a second episode, perhaps after the November hoo-ha or the trip to Australia. Welcome up the opportunity to meet you in person. I'm sure we can get Haley involved as well and go.
Yeah, I would love that. And you've got such amazing talent in Australia as well. And like, I would tell you if you didn't. I did a board meeting one time and I was like, your CSO is shit and you should fire him. That was my first opening statement to the board. Like, I like being candid because, whatever. It's not about us. It's about the communities we serve. So let's be candid. Yeah. You've got a just truly good, like worldwide top 3, top 4 locations for really good OT security talent. I hope government and industry leverages it. Like, you've got some amazing people. And even when you got, I had Bruce Large as one of the OT security people in Australia. It's amazing. I just love that name, Bruce Large. Anyways, Bruce and Gareth, opposite side of the spectrum politically, they're the ones that were trying to explain it to me. Knock down blows about whatever terms you call each other in politics for slurs or whatever. They're just going at it. They're drunk. They hate each other. And immediately talk about infrastructure security, immediately love each other, holding on to each other. Hey, here's how we take care of our communities, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you've got just the best people.
Yeah. I just love the mission around community first. Like, that's going to be at the center of surely what we all do. It's awesome. Good on you guys. Good on the Dragos crew. Speaking to both of you to get it. Yeah. We've got Ben now. So
like, if this keeps going well, I could be like on Twitter, posting random nasty, awful things or something. You gotta hold me accountable. So that'd be good.
We'll let you know, Rob. We're just as candid. Yeah, don't do that. That was shit. Yeah. That's awesome. Is there anything else finally, Rob, that you'd like to offer up to this more sort of Asia Pac lens down here? And it comes
again, y'all are. I'm doing the stereotype. I don't have anything to add, and then rambles for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Look, again, interesting time in history. What an amazing time to be in the community. If you're not in OT security and you want to know where to get started, it's simple. Go on YouTube, watch videos about industrial, not security. How does a wastewater treatment facility work? How does a nuclear power plant work? How does a steel making facility work? How does the building HVAC system in a data center work? Go YouTube, the videos. How's that work? And learn the mission. Then all of the ideas will start flowing on, patching doesn't make a lot of sense for that thing. And antivirus, can't even fit on that thing. But you know what would be really bad is if somebody could modify the logic on that controller and in operations time. How would you do that? And then just let the creative juices start going. And what you'll find is all of your security knowledge, if you're in IT security, is relevant. It doesn't have the same priority, doesn't have the same risk mitigation, doesn't have the same outcomes in OT, but it's relevant. And once you know the mission of OT, you can start adapting your security knowledge and you will be fine. And it's a wonderful time to join the community. So come on over.
Love it. So good. Anything else from you, Ben? Hunt?
Sure, I'm just excited to get the Dragos jersey on, to be honest.
No, this would be great though, because like in a couple months you can get back on the podcast and be like, he's full of shit on everything.
Yeah. We're gonna have to take a snippet from this and like send it to Haley when you get announced for the first day.
No, I just got a note and she responded. She's like, "Oh, I thought that was later. Yeah, I was gonna tell you."
Surprise plot twist.
Yeah, I just already signed the offer letter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just said, "Oh yeah, he hasn't signed yet." I'm like, well, actually,
just this morning. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, the CEO could let the director of AIDS know.
Yeah, this is the final step in the recruitment process.
Yeah, just to screw with the SD.
Yeah. That was so good. Oh, it's been amazing, Rob. Thanks so much for joining us on Dark Mode. That was a super enjoyable, insightful episode, but I think the banter and the laughs prior was probably the highlight for me. So really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it as well. And Bluey's begging me to take her out anyway, so it's a good time to break it. Which she was named because again compliments to Australia. We have really stupid children's shows in the United States. Like I would never want to have my kid watch children's shows. And when I had him in Sydney right before the pandemic, I guess it was like a little over 2. I could sit him down and the public broadcasting was amazing. Bluey, amazing show. Kudos. But also there was like a TV show with just a lady reading books to people, like it was the best TV. So anyways.
Funny story quickly about Bluey, Rob, is it was actually written by a family friend, and some of the stories that are now episodes, my family.
Oh man,
you're joking. That's awesome.
I'll get you a beer with Malcolm Turnbull if you get me and my kid introduction to Bluey people.
Yeah. That's a good deal.
Malcolm listens in and he's like, why is he whoring me out? Poor Malcolm. No, he didn't know what he was getting into. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Amazing. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.